or people can go back and look at the video. All right, looks like we're on.
Yes, we are. We're recording now. Let me send a message to Ladi.
Should we start and we could introduce him once he joins us again?
Okay. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Oh, he's here.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Ladi.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
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 Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Maymunah.
She'll ping in. She's already here, so let's go.
Okay. All right. 1 second. I need to this one. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. Everyone is looking really nice and trendy. I guess it's supposed to have you to talk to today. I'm so glad to be here today, and I'd like to introduce you all. But before that, my name is Nadi, and I'm the project manager for the TeenTownHouse project. I will be introducing the moderator as well as the panelists for today's event. Our moderator for today is Damilola Toriola. She's a fascinating and brilliant young adult, hi Dami, who's currently undertaking an undergraduate degree at Imperial College. She also runs a blog and Instagram page called Queen of Eyes, where she speaks about mental health and being a young adult in today's society. I guess that she's the right person to be moderating this conversation today, considering the things that we have to discuss. Hi Dami, how are you?
Fine, thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah. I'll also be introducing Rachel. Rachel is the founder of Nyaradzo Leadership, where she merges tools from neuroscience, psychology, and ontology to give clients a holistic opportunity for their continued development. In this work, she offers her expertise as a facilitator, an ontological coach, advisory partner, and speaker. She works with corporate entrepreneurs, teams, and individuals, as well as young people. Rachel seeks to develop deep benches of leaders across Africa, leaders who can accelerate the transformation and inclusive development of the continent. And that's one of the reasons why we find her to be one of the most important people to bring onto this panel. Her experience and her expertise with young people gives her the right standing to have this conversation with us today. She's also from Zimbabwe, so she brings in a wealth of experience from different parts of the continent as well. Hi, Rachel. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here, Chinwe. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ladi Okuneye, the only man in the house, is an internationally certified Enneagram Personality Coach, as well as an experienced telecoms, media, and technology consultant. His unique blend of skills provides a powerful framework that helps individuals and organizations deal with leadership and organizational development, team dynamics, and conflict resolution issues. He also works with individuals and couples who are looking for a transformational tool to aid their journey towards self-mastery and healthier relationships. He brings the angle of being a male figure as well as the personality structure to our conversations. You'd find that most of the, he'll bring like an interesting perspective to the questions that we have. Hi, Ladi, welcome on board.
Thank you, good to be here.
Same. So happy you're here. Dr. Maymunah. Okay, hi, Dr. Maymunah. Dr. Maymunah is popularly known as the celebrity shrink. She's a mental health advocate and psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, and the medical director of Pinnacle Medical Services, which is a health and wellness center that deals with psychological and mental health related issues. She's also a trained and certified rational, emotive, and cognitive behavioral therapist, a trauma counselor, and a neurofeedback practitioner. Dr. Maymunah is quite keen on creating awareness on psychological and mental health related issues in Nigeria and beyond, and is currently hosting a week-long suicide prevention campaign on her Instagram page, which you can check out after this, where she talks about how we can prevent suicide today. Welcome, Dr. Maymunah.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here.
Okay, and finally, we have Ms. B, Ms. Jala Labi, I call her Ms. B, who is what would I call her now? The founder of this project, literally. She's the one who's the brain box, she's the dream behind this, and she's really actually doing this. She's very interested in youth and what we're doing today and how we can become better human beings or better adults tomorrow. She's also the founder of Viola Labi Media, which most of you will know. They are the producers of Lara and the Beast and Banana Island Books. Hi, Ms. B, welcome on board.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And thank you everyone really for honoring our invitation. We're so excited to have you here today. Thank you. And Chinwe, thank you so much for really working on this project and making it a reality. It's one thing to say, I want to do something and for it to become a reality. So thank you and kudos to you for really bringing this dream to life. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll be handing over to you, Ms. B, to do like an introduction of the entire session, and then Dami can take over.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm not gonna spend too much time on doing an introduction because we do have a limited amount of time and we've already received so many questions and I want us to really jump into it. But I wanna say thank you, and really the Teen Summit came out of a lot of conversations with Chinwe and telling her some of the things that I really feel and some of the gaps that I'm seeing, and really trying to understand if that's a real gap or if it's just that I'm not keyed into that community. And so, and then coming in contact with Dami, the conversations just kept on evolving. I kept on feeling that I was having the same conversations, even if I was at a dinner table with parents, or if I was at a dinner table, if I was at a table with teenagers or young adults, that there is something missing, especially during this critical time where adults are spending adults are spending most of our times in workshops online. We're spending time taking courses online. We're spending time in Zoom after Zoom. Dr. Maymunah knows that feeling. She's been Zooming all day. And I haven't seen that many things really for teenagers, for young adults, and also even for children. And so really coming together and sort of thinking about who are the people that I know that are doing some amazing work with people, especially young adults, and just putting this together. And I really want to say just a quick call out to Rachel. I met Rachel while she was doing a lot of work with African students at Yale, and I just have been blown away with the work she's been doing. She's worked with us also on Grooming for Greatness, which is a mentorship program that I run as well. And a lot of our mentees from that program have gone on to be doing some amazing work across the continent, and I'm excited. And Dr. Maymunah, I've interviewed her multiple times, and her passion around mental health and her passion for teenagers, her passion for youth just overwhelms me. And Chinwe told me that I had to start following Ladi, which I'm so glad I'm now following you. So thank you, Ladi, for being here. But really, I want to open the floor up and hand over to Dami so that we can dive in and start with some of the questions that parents, and so one of the things just for everyone to know out there is we've received questions from parents and teenagers, and we're going to be throwing those to you, and hopefully you guys can help parents think through some of these, but really how do teenagers navigate a new world in which there's so much stop and go in our future. One day you're able to go into classrooms, the next day you're not able to. One day the government says go to school, the next day they says they can't. And how do we build the right resiliency? And how do we help parents understand that resiliency today is different from what resiliency used to be in their time? That's another thing. I keep on having conversations with parents, and parents say, today's children are not resilient. And I say they're resilient in a world that has so many different elements in it. One of them is digital bullying. One of them is issues of sexual assault, lack of protection. How do we make sure that our children are resilient and we recognize what they need? So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, and I am going to hand over to Dami. So Dami, thank you so much for doing this. And since you were recently a teenager, we thought you would be perfect for this. So thank you so much.
Okay, hi everyone. So thank you for attending, first of all. Second of all, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to go through everything. For now, I'm just going to ask some predefined questions. So we don't really have much time. So I'm trying to like keep it as concise as we can so that we can go through as many questions as we can. So the first theme we wanted to like talk about was a sense of self and identity. So my first question is actually for you, Rachel. So I've watched a few of your videos and you seem very eloquent, put together, and very like sure about yourself and clear on your identity. So I wanted to know, have you always like known what you were meant to do? Or was there ever a point where you were like hesitant and you weren't so sure? Like, how did you become the person you are today?
Thank you so much, Damilola. So yes, I was always clear in my self-identity, and I believe that every single person on this call is. The difficulty was that I was always in a society that didn't affirm who I was. And I believe that's the fundamental problem with growing up and figuring ourselves out, is that there's a sacred part of ourselves that knows who we are and what we want to do and how we'd like to manifest. But then we have these messages that says, if you're not mathematical enough, if you're not scientific enough, if you're not musical enough, if you're not anything enough, it means it's not sufficient. And so what we start to do is to betray ourselves. Is we start to now copy what people are telling us is the right way to do things or to be. And that's what messes us up. So I did suffer with a lot of lack of self-confidence, lack of self-belief, thinking I wasn't smart enough, bright enough, but not because I didn't know who I was, because I was basically going against a society that doesn't often know how to support us.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that answer. So the next question is for you, Ladi. So I wanted to get a male perspective. So when you were a teenager, did you ever like ask yourself who you were? And how do you think teenagers should go about answering the question, like, who am I in this world? There's so many options.
So I honestly don't think I consciously asked myself that question, to be honest. I think we all subconsciously ask ourselves that question, but we don't consciously ask ourselves that question. But I did consciously ask myself the question of, what do I want to be when I grow up? And that's it's a slightly different question, and it's a very common question that I believe all teenagers probably ask themselves. And the thing is, because I didn't ask myself that question as a teenager, I focused more on the other question that I just put forward, which is, what do I want to be when I grow up? So coming up as a teenager, I essentially tied my identity to what I wanted to be when I grew up, not necessarily who I was. And when you do that, I mean, just to kind of piggyback on some of the things that Rachel said, you're already telling yourself a false story about who you are. You're already giving yourself a reason and an excuse to let go of certain parts of who you are, just to focus on the part that you think is beneficial at that particular time in your life. So, I mean, I think I found myself in that same boat as a teenager. And of course, it can be very nerve-wracking because if you were to really stay with the question of who I am, it's a very scary question. And it can create anxiety in you. And we all know we all love to run away from anxiety, right? Because what if you get it wrong, right? Like, then you really feel messed up. It's a very, very, scary question. But I think at some point in my life, I started asking myself a gentler question, which is one I think is useful for teenagers. It's, a much gentler question than who am I is, who do I need to be in this phase of my life? If we kind of take it in chunks, it's a lot easier to digest, because when you're grappling with who am I, that big, bold, audacious question, as a teenager, you're factoring in so many things. You're factoring in not just who you need to be for your family, who you need to be for your career. It can be a bit daunting, but I feel like if teenagers can kind of like just strip it down a little bit to who do I need to be in this phase of my life, it's a much easier question to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. So our next theme I wanted to cover was body image and self-esteem. So this question is for you, doctor. So I wanted to ask, during like adolescence, teens feel a lot more self-conscious, obviously, about our bodies because they're continually changing. So more than any other time in our life. So I wanted to ask you, like, why do you think we're more conscious about our bodies when we're teenagers? And why is body image so important to teenagers?
Thank you, Chinwe. This particular question, and also speaking with this particular age group, this is the Generation Z. These are a group of people that are between the ages of 5 to 24. So we are going to see the teenagers here. We're going to see the young adults who are, just starting work and trying to settle down. A lot borders on nature versus nurture. A lot borders on what you have been told over and over and over again, that the brain gets to, say, look, against all of this is who I am. So that question you asked initially, when you have parents who will constantly tell you, you are this, you are this, you are this, you are that, even if you know you are not, with time, some children will tend to embrace it and say, okay, this is who I am, because the people that are closest to that person, to you, are telling you differently. So when you come to body image issues, it pulls from that self-esteem. And self-esteem is something that most times we don't automatically grow it. We grow it from how you have been nurtured, whether from your parents, whether from when you start school, from your teachers, and of course before the general society. And of course, self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, they are enmeshed into one another. So when you have body image issues, it may be you that you are projecting that to yourself and say, I'm not good enough, I'm not fine enough, I have a mole here, I'm not beautiful. And that leads to those body dysmorphic issues, which are not treated, which are not curable. So you may have like a mole, and everybody says, oh, that is like a beauty spot, but you are constantly telling yourself, no, this mole has disfigured my face. So you then to find people going for surgery, using cosmetic cover up and all that. So my advice to teenagers in this forum is, as much as possible, build your self-esteem. It starts from you first. Starts from you, and the people around you, even if you are telling you otherwise, discover truly who you are. And this is the point where I would say, find how you can equip yourself with a lot of emotional intelligence, which has the 4 golden rules. Self-awareness. Once you are self-aware, you develop how to self-manage yourself. And that also now leads to you being able to be aware of other people, and finally, know how to manage people around you. So if somebody is telling you otherwise of who you are going to say, look, this is not who I am, because you are more self-aware, and you are able to put that across as a conversation as against a confrontation. So it's important that you get the right people. Building your self-esteem, body image issues can lead to a lot of anxiety, sometimes even depression. And we have quite a number. So I'm managing, when this question came in, I had to go back to my archives to check how many teenagers we are currently dealing with for the year, even during COVID. So we are currently dealing with about 33 teenagers. And out of these 33 teenagers, we have 8 of them with body image issues. 3 of them are suicidal. So that can really be, catastrophic at the end of the day. So getting the parents also involved is not really helping us, because some parents don't even want to get involved, but we have to get them involved, because in the pathway to recovery and the pathway to healing, we need people. People make it happen, and that builds their support system.
Thank you very much for your answer, and for also covering body dysmorphic disorder. I had a question for Ladi. So I think it's a lot of like female teenagers are more like affected by this body dysmorphic disorder, but would you say like men as well are very like conscious about how they look, as conscious as women, or not? Like, what's your perspective on it, Ladi? Sorry, you're muted, Ladi, so we can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. No, I was just saying that, look, I feel like everyone is self-conscious. I know as an adult now, I know I was self-conscious as a teenager, because we're all looking for acceptance, right? That's one of the biggest things that drives you, especially in this phase. in life, especially when you're grappling with that question of who am I? You're grappling with it because you're trying to figure out, where do I fit in the clan that I belong to? So we're all always looking for acceptance. So we're all self-conscious, okay? And and the other thing is that when you're younger, and even into adulthood, your positive traits and experiences, they don't stick in your memory as hard as the negative ones, okay? And I think I probably I struggled with that as well. I still remember when I was younger, I wasn't always as fit as I am today. I mean, I did grow up playing sports, but before I got into sports, I was a bit of I was a heavier kid. I was the heaviest of all my siblings, but I was also tall, which is also a good quality, right? But I don't remember being taller than everyone else as much as I remember being heavier than everyone else, okay? Because that's just something that we all struggle with. So even guys, even boys do struggle with body image in some way, shape, or form. And it's something that we all need to be conscious of. But, in terms of how I kind of, came into my own, at some point I just realized that, okay, there are certain changes I wanted to make. I needed to, to set achievable targets for myself and build routines into my life that would help me, achieve those targets. But I certainly know that I struggled with body image, even as a man. We're not as vocal about it as females are. But it doesn't change the fact that we as men, we struggle with those things as well. I mean, the other thing I will say is, especially from a personality perspective, within each and every one of us, we're all kind of built like magnets, right? There's a positive and a negative to every single trait that we could possibly have, right? And we do our best to reject the negative, and we try our best to hold on to nothing but the positive. In our process of rejecting the negative, we end up projecting it against other people, just so that it's, that way it's something that's in you that you can't see. So once you project it on someone else, then it's easier for you to be like, okay, it's not a part of me anymore. And I think it's something that affects everyone, not just women. It also affects men. I know personally, as a young man, I was always more attracted to slimmer girls and slimmer women. And I know that inside of me, it probably had to do with that insecurity I was managing when I was a heavier kid myself. And that's the reality. So you do have to. You have to deal with these things. You have to bring them into your consciousness, and you have to basically you have to kind of like trick your brain into finding things to be grateful for. Because gratitude is one of the paths to self-acceptance. Finding those parts of yourself that you do accept, that you do feel comfortable with, and making a plan to remember that. It could be through journaling or whatever routines you need to build into your life, so that starts to help to suppress a lot of the negative perceptions you also have about yourself. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for that response. So I'm going to move on to the next theme, which is peer pressure. So I'm going to ask Rachel this question. So, peer pressure basically plays a very huge role for teenagers. Always like, okay, my friends are doing this. Should I be doing this? So I want to sort of understand how should teenagers sort of navigate through external peer pressure? How do they sort of avoid it? And how should they handle it? Because a lot of people don't actually know how to. So yeah, over to you, Rachel.
Yeah, so, first of all, I'd like to say, peer pressure is normal. So don't feel ashamed when you feel peer pressure, when you feel like, oh my goodness, I don't feel like I have a lot of self-will or willpower to fight this peer pressure. The research shows us that the brain is a social brain. And so one of the things that all human beings do, even us as adults, is conform. Because we don't want to be rejected, right? We want to feel like we are part of the crowd. We want to feel like we are safe, because sometimes not conforming makes you feel like you're going to be rejected, and nobody wants that. So I just want to say, don't feel shame about it. When you're struggling and you feel like, oh, I feel a lot of pressure to do a bunch of things, just accept that this is part of what the brain does. That being said, you know, I love a process called the ABC: awareness, take a breath, make a different choice, right? So be aware that I'm under peer pressure, right? I'm being made to do things that I don't necessarily want to do, take drugs, take alcohol, go to a party I don't care for. Take a breath means pause and ask yourself, do I really want to do these things? I remember when I was 16 years old, I really realized that I didn't like parties. I've always been an introvert. I've always been a nerd. I prefer my books over parties. But I always showed up at these parties that I had no business being at. You know, I really didn't care for them. They bored me. But I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be cute. I wanted to be pretty. I wanted to be a girl that the boys liked. And so I went to these parties, and always to my detriment. And one day I remember being 16 years old and saying, you know what? Actually, this is not for me, right? This is not who I am. There's some people who love parties, and because of that, they do them well. For me, it always created awkward outcomes. So I took a breath and I said, actually, what are the things that I love to do? And how can I start to focus on that? And that's what I started doing. I started to now focus on, actually, it's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be a thinker. And I started to find crowds of people who were like me, who supported who I am, who built me up and made me feel confident in the things that I loved. And so my advice is, you know, be aware that peer pressure is normal. You know, take a breath to really start to say, but what are the things that I really love? Who am I really, authentically? And then start to find the crowds of people that really speak to you. You know, so I realized that I was less and less the Real Housewives of Atlanta, right? I was more a Melody Hobson type of girl. I liked the thinking kind of women. I wasn't trying to be cute, you know, and that's okay. And that's how you build a confident self-identity. And that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to ask about life. Also, anybody that's currently watching this, please put your questions in the chat because I'm going to be going through them in a bit. So how do you guys, well, I'm going to first start by asking Doctor, of course. So how do you think teenagers should navigate relationships and social lives after COVID? Because it's quite difficult because you want to see people, but you also want to try and stay safe. And like, how do you think it has affected those with social anxiety, for example? Doctor, over to you.
Social anxiety, you know, that is one thing I strongly believe parents and of course schools should really look out for. 6 months, children haven't been to school. Teenagers haven't been to school. In fact, 6 months, we still see some children that their parents haven't even allowed them out of their living room because they are still scared of the virus out there. They can't even play with their fellow maybe neighbors or visit their cousins or thereabout. So it's a medical term and I don't want to go into it. It's a very long, in fact, I don't even think I want to even pronounce it. It's like a German name whereby after COVID, people, children and teenagers are going to be afraid going to school. It's a disorder. Yeah, it's a disorder that you have to try to get your children to start loving school all over again. So building up on how to get them reintegrated, so because that is a word we have to use, reintegrated back into school. It's all about, look, COVID is not within your control. COVID is COVID now. COVID will come and go. This is not the first pandemic we've had. Of course, like 100 years ago, there was one, and now all of us in this generation, this is the first time we are all experiencing this pandemic. But how do you ensure, because I'm talking to the ages of 13 to 19, but their parents aren't here, but you have to be more intuitive into yourself and discover what do you want to do post-COVID? How do you want to get reintegrated back into the society post-COVID? So leveraging on technology now is not a bad thing, but you know, the technology has a good, the bad, and the ugly. So even if you're in a home where parents are saying you can't go out, how are you interacting with people, leveraging on technology online to get used to your classmates that you were together before, friends and all that, and also building formidable relationships. It's called connectional intelligence. In as much as we have social intelligence, we have emotional intelligence, we also have what we call connectional intelligence. The relationship, I want to let the teenagers we're talking to right now, that the relationship you build now, when you are nobody, most times are the relationship that will take you through for a very long time. Because when you are somebody, everybody is your friend. You are successful, I'm your relative, even if we are not connected. But the relationship you have now will be the ones that will open doors for you. So build them, find them, nurture them, and hold them. So reintegrating back is all about you using the keys of the emotional intelligence for building your connectional intelligence and realizing that you can never be in isolation. No, you can't be in isolation. Can't be an island. So I would say with the question you asked, Rachel, the peer influence thing, rather than being influenced by a loud voice, whether direct, indirect, positive or negative influence, use the 4-letter word pair, as in peer influence. P, for any issue around you, pause and evaluate. Pause about whatever is happening around you. Look at it. Is it in pursuit of your greatness? Are you going to be better? When this information that you have, it's going to help you. The E, yes, examine the information that you have. You own it. You are enough. You own that information. You are in control. Don't let that information influence what you already know that will be beneficial to you. The E, yes, I said evaluate and examine it. How is it going to build you? How is it going to make you a better person? How are you going to be able to get back to school? Your friends are still your friends. And if there are a group of people that have changed over time, who said that friends can't be unfriend? You can be friends today and you're unfriend tomorrow. Yeah, but you have to know, examine, evaluate. And the last is R, resist the pressure. Resist the comparison. There will be a lot of pressure. Rachel has said it. Yeah, there will be a lot of things coming to you, but resisting it, you have to be deliberate. So in my final words, I would tell every teenager listening now and anybody concerned, you must be intentional, deliberate about who you want to be. And it has to be on a continuous basis.
Thank you very much for your answer, Doctor. So my next question is to Ladi. So I'm going to start doing the questions that the teenagers have been sending in. So in this society, a lot of us feel, especially in Nigerian society, that parents are more protective over daughters and over girls. And it's very overwhelming and heartbreaking. It's like once we become teenagers, boys can do things that we can't. So you as a man, Ladi, would you like to explain why do you think that parents are more overprotective over girls?
That's a good question, and it's one that I, as not just as a man, but also as a dad of a teenager, it's one that I have also had to grapple with and have to deal with, and I am dealing with as well. I mean, besides the obvious stereotypical answers that I could give you, that's around, it's got to do with culture, it's got to do with how we believe girls should, present themselves and preserve themselves. And besides all of those sort of stereotypical answers that I can easily give you, I would say it's primarily
I think his connection went.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to give it over to Doc?
Yes, Doctor, please, if you can explain to us.
So, yeah, generally.
Hey, so sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's back.
Okay. My sincere apologies. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, his network is messing up. one of the issues.
Yeah, my apologies.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so sorry. Let me just tidy up my answer to the question while I fix my network issues as well. I think, like I said, besides a lot of the stereotypical answers, I think the other reality is that a parent, we as parents, and I'm throwing myself into this mix. we tend to parent based on our own personalities. We look at our kids through our own, through the, our own lens. So if we've grown up in a culture where boys are seen as stronger than girls, a father would look at his daughter through those lens and look at his daughter through the lens of, my son is stronger than you. And the same also goes even from the perspective of the mom, a woman. She's parenting through her own lens and not really factoring in the personality of that child. There are some teenagers that need to be protected more than others, but I don't necessarily think we need to determine that based on their gender. We should actually determine that based on what their personality is. You see what I mean? But culture has already conditioned us to look at our children through our own lens, which is also through the lens of gender. But there's girls out there who are equally as strong and as resilient as any boy out there and could be given a lot more freedom. There are boys who need a lot more hand-holding than, because they're not as emotionally, or mentally mature as they need to be at a certain age. So I think that one of the first things I would like to do is to just say just for parents that might be listening, is get out of your own way. Don't look at your kid through the lens of your own personality. Don't raise your kids through the lens of your own fears, your own experiences, your own defense mechanisms that you put in place, and all of that. Just assess your kid. Try and make sure you understand your kid. If you have a more assertive kid who has a strong personality, is a bit of a leader, you probably don't need to police that child as much as a kid that can easily be taken advantage of by the world. If you do have a kid that can be taken advantage of by the world because they're not as emotionally mature yet, yes, you should pay closer attention, and hover them a little bit more. But just make sure that it is based on that child's personality and your understanding of that child's personality, not yours.
Thank you very much for that answer. That was very interesting and very concise. So my next question is for Rachel. So I wanted to, for Doctor. So I wanted to ask, the teenagers are saying, how do they tap into their potentials at the right time? So how did you know when to tap into your potential and your talent also at the right time, or was there even a right time?
A very important question. That is, in fact, you just look on the flip side, was there even a right time? So the thing is that if you don't get to do certain things, when do you get to do it? And if you say it's not you, then who should do it? So when it comes to tapping into your potentials, it's also about leveraging on all the things that are first within your control. There are certain things that may not be within your control. But what are the things that are within your control that you can easily tap in? It's also very important that we get to understand that we all, I think we have about 20 people online now, from the panelists to the attendees. We all have personality traits, but we do not have personality disorders. And our personality traits, can either make or man us. If you are the type that have the personality trait of, let's take, for example, a narcissistic personality trait, that means, you always want to be in control, you always want to be heard, you always, that is just you. But you may not discover that is you because you have not taken a personality assessment before. Somebody hasn't put it to you that, why are you so narcissistic? Then you learn, what do you mean by that? So the first thing is, that first question you asked at the beginning, who am I? I truly believe all the teenagers that are here, and even with the adults, if you haven't discovered who truly you are, discover yourself. It's only when you know who you are that you can leverage on what you want. And in your pursuit for greatness, you can then harness everything available to you and look for people to help you, take you out there. I just spoke to a teenager before I came in, an 18-year-old who is going to school tomorrow in England. And I was telling him that the thing is that now you need a mentor. And when you're in the workplace, most likely you need a sponsor. There are two different things, but one person can be the same, or different. And he said, okay, what do I need? Because I asked him, who is his role model? And he was telling me, I don't have a role model. I said, no, role models are necessarily, they're not people you must know. They're people you look up to, that they have qualities in them and you want to imbibe. But your mentor, somebody that you know that will take you through the rope and, you know, help you grow and all that. So the thing is that when you have to harness the things available to you with regards to your growth, and when is the right, there's never a right time. Any opportunity that comes to you, grab it. If you don't get it, you learn from it. But never you see it as a failure. Never, ever you see it as a failure. And if you admire anything about somebody that you want to be in a positive light, don't hold yourself back to say, oh, she got it through XYZ, or he got it through his father's connection. Go there, introduce yourself. My name is Maymunah Yusuf Kadiri, and I love the fact that you got this award in this. He said, how did you get it? I'm even coming to meet Biola for World Fellow. Biola, you know, I Googled and I found out that she's a World Fellow recipient, like a long time ago. I said, okay. Then that means there's somebody I can reach out to and tell me how to go to. So I believe teenagers, please, you have the power. Don't shy away from it. When you walk up to someone and say, I want to do this because I've seen you, I've Googled you, and you do this, that person is likely going to feel obliged to help you as against you looking at the negative and say, because it's a connection or because the person did X, Y, Z to get there. We need people. People make it happen. So the right time, there's never a right time. Your time is your time. Your day is your day. But first, harness all the necessary things that are within your control, and then reach out to things that are not within your control through people, or through people that know people that you know. And you will see yourself blossoming.
Thank you so much. I definitely agree. There's definitely not a right time. It's time and what you choose to do with it. So for my next question, this is directed at Rachel. So we had a few similar questions from the teenagers. So they're basically asking, what is something that you think that you wish you had learned or someone had taught you when you were in school or in university that helped you in your endeavors, but obviously you were never really taught, but you wish you were?
Oh my goodness, so much. I mean, this topic is something I'm so passionate about. There's so much we don't teach young people that I think is so vital to our being able to thrive in the world. I think the first is, whatever your natural strength is your power in the world, right? Stay in your lane. Do what you love. Do what makes you come alive. Because when you do that, first of all, you're likely to access your genius, right? Much quicker. But secondly, you're likely to just live a happy life. And I can tell you, as a person who coaches people up to the age of 70, there are a lot of unhappy adults in the world. Why? Because they're doing things they have no business doing. So I'll tell you, when I was in high school, I was terrible at maths. I hated maths. It gave me constipation. I honestly just always felt like, why am I even learning this, right? Because my brain is not wired that way. So what I did was, you know, I crammed so that I could pass it, because it's important to pass the subject. So you must pass your subjects because they are a doorway into doing other things. But when I went to university, I did what I loved. I studied anthropology. Everybody laughed at me and said, why are you studying ants? Anthropology is the study of people, but everybody thought I was studying ants. And I just thrived and blossomed. And people said, you'll never find a job. I've worked at so many institutions, world class. I worked at McKinsey. I worked at Alan Gray. I worked at Yale. People said to me, you'll know you'll never be happy. And I am one of the happiest people I know. So just stay in your lane. Be confident in what you're naturally good at. That's your power. You know, the second thing I wish I had been told is that your emotions are your own. You cultivate your own emotions. Nobody's giving you emotions. Nobody is hurting you. Nobody is upsetting you. Your emotions are being created by your thoughts. And so manage your thoughts, right? Always be conscious of what your thoughts are, because they're ultimately creating this emotional ecosystem that is either supporting you or destroying you. So, sometimes I'd wake up just feeling sad. And I was like, why am I sad? But I didn't realize it's because just the other day I was thinking I'm not pretty enough. So you don't manage these thoughts. And then before you know it, you wake up in a mood, in a funk, because, you're not thinking about, wait a minute, I create my own emotions. Because once I understood that, I started to understand that I had more power than what I realized. I had more ability to control my environment, my internal environment, than I realized. I wasn't helpless to my emotions. If you want to experiment with it, if you have an emotion that's currently inside of you and you don't like it, think about what is the thought that is causing this emotion, change the thought, and you'll see that the emotion will change as well, right? This is just the natural, and I'm sure Dr. Maymunah can tell us more about this being a psychologist, right? This is how the brain works. The third thing that I wish I had known, and this is the final thing, is that, the brain is more likely solving for threats than it is for rewards. And what do I mean by that? The brain is very dramatic, right? So we often over-exaggerate the threats in the world. We often over-exaggerate how terrible things are. I would say keep around you a tribe of people who you can run things through, especially when you start to feel overwhelmed. I can promise you, it's not as difficult as it seems, right? Every time I look back on everything that I thought was dramatic and difficult, it wasn't. I was like, why didn't I just ask somebody? Why didn't I just go and look for advice somewhere else? When I worked at McKinsey, we had this rule that said, if you're trying to solve a problem for 15 minutes and you're not finding the answer, go and ask somebody. Don't allow yourself to wallow in something for longer than is necessary. If it's becoming clear to you that this is impossible for me, I can bet you there are 2 or 3 people in your network who could make it easier for you. Literally, these 3 simple thoughts, if I had been told this as a young person, they would have saved me so much trouble. So that's what I tell every person that I work with. When you understand these things, you have so much more control over your life.
Thank you so much. That was such an amazing response. And I agree. Those are things that I wish I knew as well as a teenager, especially everything. Like, it's true. Your mood is affected by your own brain, definitely. So my next question is for you, Ladi. So what advice would you give your teenager if they came to you saying they had a toxic friend, or how do you think they should deal with toxic friendships? So that's one of the teenagers who asked that question. You're muted, Ladi.
Well, you muted me that time and I didn't realize I was still muted. Okay, let me dive right into your question. If my teenager came to me and said that they've identified that they had a toxic friendship, my advice is typically very simple. When the reason you would call a relationship a toxic relationship is because that person has hurt you, okay? And I always see that as an opportunity to dispel, just to get rid of the myth, the whole forgive and forget myth. It's a myth. You forgive, you do not have to forget. Sometimes you need to remember, and you need to remember so that you can put yourself in a situation where that person cannot hurt you in that way again, okay? The thing about relationships is relationships are not always meant to stay the same way. If you have a toxic relationship with someone, perhaps your relationship with that person needs to change. Perhaps you need to put some distance between yourself and that person so that they do not have the opportunity to hurt you the way that they have hurt you in the past. I'm not saying hold on to those hurts. Yes, forgive them, okay? But the thing is, when people hurt us, there's a difference between there being consequences for their actions, the dynamic of the relationship changing. There's a difference between all of that and forgiveness. You can forgive someone and wish them well from afar, okay? So if someone is toxic to you, change the dynamic of the relationship. You certainly don't want to hold on to the things they've done to you that hurt you, because that is basically you allowing them to live rent-free inside your head. Okay, you don't want that either. Okay, but you need to be able to redefine what that relationship with that person needs to be. Sometimes it needs to go as far as you deciding you don't need to talk to them anymore. Or it can be, yes, we need to modify the relationship. I am not going to share these parts of my life with you anymore that you took advantage of. So it's about it. For me, it starts from, just understanding that relationships sometimes have to evolve. It was Maya Angelou, one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Maya Angelou, and she says, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. And I think that's something that as teenagers, you need to start to understand and live by even from now.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful response. So my next question is for Rachel. So a lot of teenagers feel like parents are not allowing like teenagers to make decisions for themselves in terms of like their career and their life and everything. So teenagers want to know, like, how does one become more independent, would you say?
Yeah. Well, my sense is that, first of all, parents can learn something by having conversations with their teenagers as though they're thinking people, right? I think sometimes we have conversations with teenagers, the point that Ladi was making earlier, where we're mollycoddling them and imagining that their brains are not functional. They have developing minds, they have developing ideas. Give your children an opportunity to experiment with those ideas and create safe spaces in which they can experiment with those ideas, because you then facilitate a process in which a young person can start to understand, first of all, the value of mistakes, because mistakes are so important. If we don't start learning how to make mistakes early in our lives and to own them and to say, what do they mean? And how can I grow myself out of this? Then we then are debilitated in adult life because we think mistakes are so extraordinary. They are such a normal part of life. But also when we do that, we then also facilitate an environment of trust between parents and their teenagers, right, and their children. They can start to now say, oh, now I understand what was talked about earlier, the personality of my child. Oh, I now see where they have strengths and where they have weaknesses. So my sense is that the space of giving, the space of allowing children to be more decisive, to experiment with those decisions is really about allowing growth, allowing space for young people to grow and to thrive. And I would say to young people also, also give your parents confidence that they can give you that freedom. If you keep now doing things that then make the parent go, this one, just lock them up in the house and never let them out, then that's also on you, right? So talk to your parents, create a trust-based relationship. And then once you've done that, it creates a fertile ground for you to have more freedom.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're reaching the end of the call. So just as a little ending, I wanted each of you to just say something memorable for teenagers, just in 2 minutes, something from your teenagehood or like from your youth that is just memorable, or a lesson that you wanted to tell us about. So Doctor, could you please start?
You are enough. You just have to understand that. You are enough. You are your own competition. Do not allow the external pressure, the comparison get into you. Your generation, you are the tech natives. We are the tech invaders. We are trying to be in your space. And there's so much power in being in the tech space. Harness that. Own it. Nurture it. You can be who you want and deserve to be on earth. But one thing I have to put as a caveat, if for any reason you discover yourself, you're struggling, you discover yourself, you are going through some challenges, please seek for help. it is a sign of strength, not necessarily a sign of weakness. I wish each and every one of you here know the very best in your pursuit for greatness.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Over to you, Rachel. One memorable thing for the audience.
I would say that believe that the things you care about matter, right? Believe that if there's something that bothers you in the world, something that doesn't feel right with you, something that feels like it could be better, whether it's people's dignity, whether it's the way in which we think about the economy, whether it's politics, anything you care about, it matters, because that's probably your heartbeat. That's probably why you came to the earth. And I always remind young people, you know, Albert Einstein said, I'm not a genius. I just did what I loved and what I cared about, right? So when people call me a genius, it's a mistake. I just went with my natural wiring. So whatever you find yourself perplexed by, you always think about, give it a chance, because you may literally create the world that you deserve because you gave permission to the things that you care about. So trust yourself, believe yourself. I can bet you my bottom dollar, 50, 60 years from now, you'll be like, oh, actually I was right. I should have just done it, right? So give yourself permission.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Ladi, please.
Well, the other ladies have spoken so well. I hope I still have something to say. So I would say to teenagers, make sure you know the difference between fear and anxiety, okay? And I'm going somewhere with this. Fear is clear and present danger, right? Something bad is about to happen. Someone has a gun to your face, or it's gonna happen. Anxiety is something in the future that might or might not happen, okay? So you always have a choice in terms of how you choose to look at those things that you're anxious about. Don't give them the energy that you should keep for fear. Don't give them the energy that you should reserve for really bad or negative things that are bound to happen, because we make that mistake sometimes as teenagers. We give things that make us anxious the same energy that we give to things that would make us fearful. So that anxiety, as teenagers, know that you can leverage your anxiety into a gift. You can actually integrate it into your decision-making process and not see it purely as a negative or a weakness. Athletes do this all the time, and it helps them to focus. And you can do the same thing as well, because everything, belongs. It's just about finding the right use for it. And I think the last thing I'll say is that whatever you're afraid of is probably not forever. Our fears are never forever. There's always an opportunity to convert that fear into a focus that grows you and causes you to fly forward in life. So just stay open. Don't be afraid of making mistakes along the way, because that's where the greatest growth opportunities exist. And the best is yet to come for you, regardless of how you see your current situation. The best is yet to come.
Thank you so much for that response. So thank you everybody for coming. I'm going to hand over to Ms. Biola in case she wants to say anything.
Once again, I just want to say thank you so much. This is exactly what we wanted, to have a lively conversation that was useful, really giving young people tools, especially as there's so much uncertainty as the school year starts. So thank you so much, Ladi, Rachel, Doc, thank you so much for really pulling yourselves from your busy schedule to do this. Dami, that was fantastic. I can't wait to tell everyone, thank you so much. And Chinwe, thank you so much for really putting this together. There's gonna be a recording on this on BAM, Biola Labi Media's YouTube channel. And then we're also gonna go back and look at this and tweet a lot of the tweetable moments that you had today. So thank you everyone. And thank you panelists for really just such amazing information. Thank you so much. Chinwe.
Thank you all so much, attendees, panelists. I wish I could take a picture of the attendees, but since I can, and everybody on the panel, please say cheese. Yeah. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you so much. I'll be sending you feedback documents. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and I enjoyed everything. I almost feel like maybe I'm missing
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
No, thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. God bless us all.
Bye.
Bye.